Welcome back. Now, I said that arguments is a little bit dangerous to use. Why is that? Well, because arguments looks like an array, but it's not really an array. So there are many things that you can do with the arguments keyword that might make the compiler or the JavaScript engine less able to optimize your code. Because you can't really use array methods on this, can you? I mean, look at it. It's not really an array, is it? And with the new JavaScript, they introduced a few little tools that we can use so that we avoid using arguments. Because there are some cases where we might want to iterate or loop through arguments instead of just accessing them regularly. One way to go about it is to say console.log and use the new array.from method. And this, if we give it something like arguments in here, will create an array from whatever we give it. So if we run this, you see that I get Tim and Tina in an array form, so that we can now use array methods on arguments. So that's nice. Another way to do this is to, let's have the Mary function again, but this time use default parameters. Again, something that we got with ES6. And here, let's call this function Mary2. Instead of using person1 and person2, we use the spread operator to say args or arguments. I can't really use arguments because that is a reserved word in JavaScript. And this time around, I'm going to call the arguments args, which we're going to console log. And we'll keep console log array from the same way. If I run Mary2 in this case, and I click run, I get an error because person1 is not defined. In our template string over here, we have to access our array. So let's say args, the first item in our argument and the second item in our arguments. If I click run, there you go. We now have args as an argument. So with modern JavaScript, you most likely want to avoid arguments. It's one of those tricky things that was initially added to JavaScript that caused a lot of problems and headache. But using the techniques that I've shown you, we can actually convert that into an array-like object so that when you do those operations, it'll be helpful for you. By the way, I know we went on a bit of a tangent, but we are talking about this arguments object that we get. And to finalize our understanding of this arguments object, remember, something that we get on each execution context. Let me ask you a question. If I remove this Mary function and just go back to our Canada and India functions, if inside of this India function, I say console.log arguments, what do you think I will get? Going to comment out the Canada function and just run India? Take a guess, because I'm going to hit run. I get an empty arguments object. We can still use the arguments object even though it's empty, even though we didn't pass any parameters, because on each execution context, we create a new arguments object. All right, let's learn a few more interesting characteristics of functions. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.